You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 65, the magic two-letter word that will help your teen add more detail in their writing, whether that's adding more detail in an essay, in an assignment, a research inquiry task, a speech, or even in something more creative. I'll tell you what that two-letter word is, how they can use it, plus I'll explain what add more detail really means and what teachers are actually after when they say it or write it on your teen's work. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey VIPs, how are you doing? I hope you've been getting some lovely spring weather right now, like I have been this past couple of weeks. It really does feel like the best time of year here in Queensland, and I absolutely love it. I love the sunshine and the warmth, and I have a few friends that are like, oh my goodness, what is the summer going to be like? Because it's already getting warm and beautiful, and I'm totally up for it. Bring on the heat. I probably won't be saying that in the middle of January, but right now, bring on the heat. And for me, having that sunshine really makes me want to make the most of it. I think it's the overhang of growing up in England, where you had to make the most of it if there was a sunny day. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more spontaneous with doing nice things these days. So this is all going hand in hand because I'm such a planner most of the time, and I'm so sensible with making sure that I get my work done and whatever is on the to-do list. And I do love that part of me, but I also appreciate how awesome it is to just sometimes choose to do something spur of the moment and really make the most of a day or just a morning or an evening. And this weather is definitely bringing that out in me at the moment. So that's super cool. And I will say, tenuous link here, it's also, that spontaneity is also what I love about my monthly Facebook Live Q&A sessions. I love having things just thrown at me in the moment when it comes to study and teaching and strategy. And I think that makes for a real win-win, because not only do you get to ask me anything you want to pick my brain on, but honestly, it's also nice for me because I get to deliver value without having to do a heap of planning. This is me being very honest, because I plan so much for every webinar and workshop and training that I deliver. I plan even more than you would probably think for these podcast episodes as well. So it's kind of refreshing and fun to just be able to rock up and deliver on the spot to whatever someone throws at me. So I hope that you are making it along to our Facebook Live Q&A sessions. I do them once a month on the third Wednesday of each month, and I'm doing that throughout 2023. However, I won't be doing it in December because I think that falls on something like the 22nd of December. And I don't think anyone wants to come and hang out and talk about study with me on the 22nd of December. And I just ran the Facebook Live for August. And so this week on the podcast, that is what I'm going to share with you here. I'm going to share with you the tips that I shared on that live about how your teen can add more detail in their writing. So whether it's adding more detail to an analysis in an essay, to an explanation in an assignment, to fleshing out information in a research inquiry task or in a speech, or even something that's actually a little bit more creative. Because what I find is many students think that add more detail means something that it actually doesn't. So I'm going to share what that phrase, add more detail, or go further with this, or please expand, what those really mean and what teachers are actually after when they write it on your teen's work as feedback or when they say it as advice. And if you'd like even more, on top of this, there were some excellent questions asked on that Facebook Live. So if you would like to also see my responses to those questions and see what those questions were and how they can help you and your teen, then you can catch the full replay recording of that live on the Rock Solid Study Facebook page. And you should also then be sure to come live for our future sessions. I always send out reminders to those of you on my email list. So if you're not on my email list, you can do that by requesting the free guide that is on the Rock Solid Study website. And you can get to that at www.rocksolidstudy.com/guide. So here we go, the 2-letter word that will help your teen write with more depth and detail and how to use it. All right, let's do this. I am going to, first of all, just give you a very quick introduction to myself. If you have not met me before or you're new to me and this page, I'm Katie Jones. I have over 17 years of experience now as an award-winning high school teacher, an external exam board marker, a scrutiny panel member, a writing panel member. I've marked for the Year 12 ATAR exams. I've been a panel member for those exams. I've worked for the QCS core skills exams. I've marked for NAPLAN. I've marked for the GCSEs over in the UK. And all of that to say, I've been a coursework moderator, all of that to say, my insights into assessment and particularly exams and coursework has been extensive. And from the very first time that I got into it, I have been completely hooked in terms of seeing what goes on behind the scenes, what is really required from students, from your teens, in terms of being able to show their knowledge of their subjects, what gets marks, what doesn't, how to get them on the right and the best track, whether it's in an assignment, whether it's in a research inquiry task, whether it's on an extended response in an exam question, whether it's a 1 or 2 mark exam question, and how we can have them really performing to the best of their ability whilst reducing the stress, the confusion, the guesswork, and actually having them enjoy more of their education and get the grades that they are truly capable of, and that so many of them deserve because they see them working so hard. And that is why this evening I really want to talk to you about that phrase that we see written and shared verbally with so many students on their work, on their drafts, on their final submissions, and that is add more detail. Add more detail. And this shows up in lots of ways. Just type me a yes in the comments if you have ever had this happen for your teen, if they've ever had it as written feedback, whether it's on an exam paper, whether it's in an essay, whether it's in even a speech or multimodal. I would love to know if this is something that you've had as feedback, or your teen has had as feedback, I should really say. It can sometimes show up as things like expand, or go further, or take this deeper, or say more, okay? Simply just more detail needed. And I will tell you, what I see students trying to do in order to try to do that is they often do 2 things. And this is quite a good explanation, I suppose, of what give more detail is not. Okay, so this is what it is not. Don't just come in and listen to this part and then leave me again. It is not about giving more information, more facts, more stats. It is not just tell me more stuff. Okay, it is tell me more about the precise point, issue, or thing that you have just mentioned. Go deeper with it. I'm going to tell you exactly one way to do that in a very simple but very effective way in a second. Okay, it is also not say this again in different ways. This is known as waffle repetition. Let me give you a bonus hint or bonus tip here. I often will say to students, especially on coaching calls, you can't get the same marks twice. Once you have ticked a criteria, it does not matter how many more times you kind of like retick that same thing, it doesn't get you more marks. So if they go around the houses kind of making the same point multiple times, it is not going to get them any more marks. It's just going to use it more of their time, more of their word count. So, and it's not just tell me more stuff, and it is not just say the same thing again in a different way. So what does it actually mean to give more detail? It does mean that they need to show a deeper or a further extent of their knowledge around the thing that they are currently discussing. I'll give you an example in a second. It means that they need to say more about that one thing. So they do want to stay focused, but it's about like keeping narrow, but going deep. Okay. So I'm going to share with you a very simple but effective way that your team can do this, and a way that you can help them do this if you ever get that privilege. It is with a very simple 2-letter word. Hope you're ready. It is the word so. So is a trigger word. Okay, and I'll explain what I mean by trigger word. So is a trigger word for explaining. Okay, now, if we just think for a moment about Bloom's taxonomy, and if you've ever heard me talk about, you can go Google Bloom's taxonomy. If you've heard me talk about command words, or if you've just heard me talk in general about how we dissect and tackle and deal with different types of questions and tasks, we have these levels of commands. Okay, now just telling me more information, more facts, more stats, more stuff about the topic is just giving me descriptive or knowledge-based statements. It's the lowest level. Okay, even though it might be lots of things, it isn't giving me more detail. Detail means we need to level up through those commands. Very often, it's about giving more explanation. Okay, and that is what I'm going to focus on today. Now we've got explain, we've got apply, we've got analyze, we've got evaluate, we've got create. Okay, but I'm going to just focus today just to keep things really clear and give you a very clear action step on the explain level. Okay, now if we use the word so, it means we are making a link and we are taking it one level, like we're going one level deeper, or we're going one level up our pyramid, one level up our commands. Okay, it means we are making a connection between two things. That is giving more detail. Okay, now I mentioned the word trigger word, or the term trigger word. Let me tell you right now, that is not a technical term. Don't go Googling it, but you can, but I don't think it's going to give you much useful stuff. A trigger word is something that I have come up with over the years as I have been marking that I have determined triggers a marker to move your team up to the next descriptor or level of criteria on the mark scheme. Or it triggers them into saying, yes, they've done that. They have given detail, or they have explained. So I'm going to have to make sure I say this right. So is a trigger word for the explain command. There are lots and lots of different trigger words at all different levels. This is an example of one. A trigger word is something that immediately tells the marker, okay, this student is doing this. They are explaining, they are making a link, they are making a connection. That word so does that. Okay, let me give you another one just so you can see what where I'm going with this. Another trigger word would be, but it is not for explain, another trigger word would be whereas. That is a trigger word that shows a difference. If your team is having to do a contrast between two things, if they use the word whereas, they are definitely showing a contrast. They're definitely showing a difference. Okay, so if they have that word whereas in a sentence, as long as the two things either side of it make sense and work, that's a trigger word. Okay, so like I said, many trigger words at all different levels. This is an example of one. Okay, now for those of you who have teens in the 10-week grade transformation program, or maybe you have previously and they've got that lifetime access, this is in Catapult 7, along with all of the work I do on command words with them. I train them and share with them, and I'm trying to avoid the word teach them. I want to use the word train them in command words and trigger words and how they work and how they can use them. So that's in Catapult 7 in the 10-week grade transformation program. And for those of you with students currently in next level, or that have an active membership in the 10 weeks of their 10-week grade transformation program, they have access to the study vault, and there is a great tutorial in there called 3 magic words. One of them is so, okay, and they can go there and get more explanation and more detail on this. Now, how do we use the word so? Let me share with you what I would do with students in the classroom. I would simply ask them a lot continuously, so what? So if we were doing some feedback or having a discussion or having a bit of a Q&A about a topic, let's just say let's say we're doing a case study of an earthquake, okay? And we might be talking about, okay, well, like what happened, or
what were some of the effects? And a student might say, okay, buildings collapsed. I'm like, yes, great. And then, of course, I just say, so what? And then maybe they continue, or maybe it goes to another student in the room. And when they're like, oh, so what? Okay, so maybe people's homes have collapsed, so they are made homeless. Excellent, brilliant. So what? So we need temporary accommodation set up. Brilliant. So what? Like, by doing that, can you see how they're going deeper and deeper and deeper and further and further and further? But they're not just telling me, they haven't started telling me what the earthquake was on the Richter scale. They haven't told me the location where it happened. They haven't had to tell me how many people were killed, although they might say people were killed because they were crushed in the collapsed buildings. But they are staying with that one thing and taking it further and making connections. In, like, as an example, we're actually going then from primary effects into secondary knock-on effects. So instantly, that's a way to add more detail and bring in more impacts, more relate, but they got to be related. We don't want something completely different. We want something related. Okay, so it's so what, so what, so what? And obviously I say that in a fun way with a smile on my face, not a like angry so what. So that's something that you can do. Now, if your teen is left to their own devices and they need to do this for themselves, here's the other way they use the so. And so they write a sentence, they make a point, they put in their statement, they say the thing they want to say. And instead of putting a full stop at the end of the sentence, they write and so, or they turn the full stop into the first part of the A and they write and so. And then they need to fill in the rest of that sentence. They write in the and so. And that forces them to think, okay, well, what does that lead to? And bonus tip, if they put it at the start of the sentence, maybe they've just written the sentence and they actually go back and put it at the start, and they then need to think, okay, well, what would have come before that that has then led to that or has been the cause of that rather than an effect? That's another nice way to do it. So if they're like, okay, I cannot go any further with my and so's, is there something else they can put at the start? So again, we're making links, we're making connections. And the beautiful thing there is we can also possibly start to move up to the skill of synthesizing, where we're bringing lots of different things together and connecting them and threading them together and putting them into a logical linking structure. Okay, so I do that a lot as like my my move along sort of wording. It's kind of apt for today. We've got so what, something they can either ask themselves, or you can ask them, or a friend can ask them, and then do it for themselves. And so pop it at the end of the sentence. That's the easiest way. And then bonus option, pop it back at the start of the sentence and see if they can put something else before it. Okay. Let me know if that's helpful. I know it's so tiny. I know it's really tiny, but it can make a huge difference. If your teen has a statement and they suddenly just put an and so, and they follow it up with something else that totally works and is logical and makes sense and is accurate, that will take them from a description sentence up to an explain. It will show that they are giving detail rather than giving just lots more information. It will give them an opportunity to add more detail, whereas perhaps before they might have just been stuck on, how do I really do that? Or what's a way I could do that?
I hope you find this helpful. I hope you and your teen can use it and get benefit from it. Remember, you can get the full replay with my visuals. I have cards that demonstrate some little ways to use this and the Q&A that followed it over on the Rock Solid Study Facebook page. Be sure to click like and follow so that you get reminders and notifications when we have our next Facebook Live. And if you know someone who might also find this helpful, you can either tag them in the comments there on that post or share this podcast with them. Have a brilliant rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week and hopefully at my next Facebook Live next month as well. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.